So Russia has just dropped a bombshell of a claim. They've successfully tested a brand new, supposedly unstoppable nuclear-powered cruise missile. The question is, are we looking at a genuine superweapon here, or is this whole thing just a super stunt? Let's get into it.
And get this, the claim is coming straight from the top. President Vladimir Putin himself went on record calling it a weapon that nobody else on Earth has. With just one sentence like that, the entire game of global security just got a little more intense.
And here's the number that's really got everyone talking. Russian officials are saying this missile flew for hours, covering a jaw-dropping 14,000 kilometers. That's over 8,700 miles, folks. A distance like that could completely rewrite the rules of missile tech, if it's true.
So, that really brings us to the heart of the matter. What are we looking at here? Is this the absolute future of warfare, or is it a really dangerous ghost, maybe something we should have left buried in the past?
All right, let's pull back the curtain and find out what this weapon actually is.
So its official name is the 9M730 Burevestnik, which is Russian for storm petrel. But NATO, well, they've given it a much more dramatic code name, Skyfall. And the key part of that description, the part you really need to focus on, is powered by its own miniature nuclear reactor. That's the secret sauce. That's what makes it supposedly so revolutionary.
The difference here is just fundamental. Think about it. A conventional cruise missile is kind of like a car. Its range is totally limited by how much fuel you can pack into it. The Burevestnik, though, it's running on a nuclear reactor. In theory, that gives it a nearly unlimited range. It could just loiter in the air for days, pop up, and attack from a direction you'd never see coming.
But here's the twist. As groundbreaking as a nuclear-powered missile sounds, the idea itself is not new. Not at all. In fact, it's a concept the United States looked into and then walked away from a long, long time ago.
Yeah, the history here is pretty wild. Way back in the 50s, the US had a program called Project Pluto that was almost identical. They even built a working engine. But in the end, they shut the whole thing down. They decided it was just too dangerous, too polluting, and frankly, not even strategically necessary. And now, more than half a century later, Russia is dusting off that old playbook and giving it another go.
And all those dangers the US was worried about back in the 1960s, well, it looks like they were onto something. Because despite Russia's triumphant claims, this program has a really troubled and frankly dangerous track record.
So let's actually look at the test record, shall we? According to the Nuclear Threat Initiative, which is an independent group that tracks this stuff, there have been at least 13 known tests of this Burevestnik missile since 2016.
And out of those 13 tests, how many do you think were successful? Just 2. And even those are only considered partially successful. For such a high-stakes weapons program, that's a pretty terrible batting average.
The program's absolute darkest moment came in 2019. U.S. intelligence is pretty sure an explosion went off while a team was trying to fish a crashed missile out of the White Sea. That accident tragically killed 5 nuclear scientists and even caused a noticeable radiation spike in a city nearby.
So the very same tech that supposedly gives this missile its unlimited range is also what makes it so incredibly risky. It's the reason so many analysts have given it that absolutely terrifying nickname, a flying Chernobyl.
So you have to ask, right? If this weapon is so incredibly hard to build and so dangerous, why is Russia pouring so many resources into it? To get that, we have to look past the engineering and into the strategic message behind the missile.
From Moscow's point of view, it seems to boil down to 4 main things. First, it's designed to get around U.S. missile defenses by flying low and taking weird, unpredictable routes. Second, it's about guaranteeing Russia can always hit back, no matter what. Third, and this is a big one right now, it's a massive political signal to the West, especially with everything going on in Ukraine. And finally, it's about prestige. It's about showing the world that Russia is a top-tier power with weapons nobody else can match.
But a lot of Western experts are, let's just say, deeply skeptical. Thomas Countryman, who's a former top U.S. arms control official, he didn't pull any punches. He called the weapon uniquely stupid. Why? Because the risk of nuclear contamination to Russia itself is just so high. He just doesn't see a strategic upside that's worth that kind of danger.
So this brings us right to the heart of the whole Skyfall story. On one side, you've got this triumphant announcement from Russia, and on the other, you have this deep, deep well of Western skepticism that's all based on the program's really messy history.
So you're left with 2 totally different stories. Russia is out there claiming a complete success.
Meanwhile, Western Analysis points to a pretty dismal test record and says, hold on, these claims are unverified. Russia talks about an invulnerable weapon. Experts fire back that it's still a subsonic missile that, could probably be shot down. Moscow calls it a crucial deterrent, while many in the West just see it as a largely political project.
Ultimately, the Burevestnik missile, whether it turns out to be a real superweapon or just an elaborate, dangerous stunt, it forces all of us to face a much more troubling question. As the old arms control treaties that kept the world relatively stable for decades continue to fall apart, is this the kind of dangerous, unpredictable technology that's going to define our future?